Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to recreate one of the more interesting aircraft to come out of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works facility. That aircraft being the Lockheed Martin D-21, a Mach 3 reconnaissance drone developed in the 1960s that would launch from the back of an aircraft that I'm sure needs no introduction, the SR-71 Blackbird, which of course to this day holds the record of fastest crewed jet aircraft ever flown. The D-21 was an unmanned scramjet drone that flew to an altitude of 90,000 feet or 27,500 meters and at speeds of up to Mach 3.3, making it nearly impossible to intercept. Furthermore, the fact that it launched from an SR-71 meant that the D-21 could reach its maximum altitude and speed while still under the protection of the SR-71's high altitude and high speed capabilities. Once the D-21 separated from the Blackbird, it would ignite its scramjet engine. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to use an aerospike, propelling it to its maximum speed and altitude. After completing its mission, the drone would then fly to a predetermined location where a parachute would deploy and allow recovery crews to retrieve it. Now, I reckon all of this would be a useful tool to have in KSP 2. When multiplayer rolls around, I think it would be pretty useful to have a spy drone that can infiltrate a rival space center and then deploy an attack rover to go and disrupt an ongoing launch. But I think for that, we need the drone here to be a bit more capable than the D-21. I'm aiming for this to be capable of reaching low Kerbin orbit, selecting a target destination from space, and then gliding down to said destination, land in a secret area, and then deploy the rover. All very exciting stuff, I hope you agree. And I'm super excited to announce, guys, actually, that, I kind of have a bit of a line of communication with the developers. There is actually a alpha build of multiplayer that exists for Kerbal Space Program 2. So I kind of asked the devs really nicely if I could maybe have access to the multiplayer system with another person that you might know, just for the purposes of testing my attack rover idea. And they actually said yes. So I actually get to test this out in like a really early, it's like super not what KSP multiplayer is eventually going to be like, but we get to actually test it out. So this is like super duper exciting. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you like the video as well. It really helps me stay above water with all algorithms stuff. And hey, if you want to subscribe, I do KSP 2 and KSP 1 videos on a regular basis. And I do space news. So there you go. That's the ad for the channel and all the YouTube stuff that I have to say over and done with. Here you can see me kind of building the SR-71 Blackbird itself. Well, I guess it's the SR-71 Whitebird at the moment. The scale is a bit wrong. First of all, I'm not the best at recreating aircraft shapes, never claimed to be. And at the moment, the wingspan of the SR-71 is way too wide. And that's because the drone's wingspan is very wide. So I needed to kind of enlarge the SR-71's. But then I ended up changing that to make it a bit more correctly scaled. So it will change. You will see the design evolve throughout the build. You might notice, if you're familiar with the D-21, my version of the D-21 looks nothing like it, because it needs to be more capable than the D-21. It needs to be able to get into orbit, and obviously it has a cargo bay that has a rover inside it. So really, when I opened this video saying this is a recreation, it really wasn't. It's just it's a recreation of the concept of launching a drone from the top of an SR-71 Blackbird. Here you can see me doing a little flight test of the drone, seeing if it worked, and it took off quite well. Pretty nice. But in just a second, it's going to start spinning out of control, yeah, and it just enters a flat spin. I couldn't get this version of the aircraft to work, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a back to the drawing board sort of thing. I ended up just shrinking its wings. I figured that was probably the problem. And then because we've shrunk the wings, we can do what I mentioned earlier. We can reduce the wingspan of the SR-71 Blackbird, make it a little bit more correctly scaled, a bit more in line with how the real thing looks. There we are. Recolor those tail fins as well. And yeah, I'm using the blueprint mode here, by the way. I love the blueprint mode. It makes it really easy to line stuff up and make sure things are pointing in the right direction. Anyway, while the build continues, I'll tell you a bit more about the real D-21. The D-21 was first used in 1969 during the Vietnam War to fly reconnaissance missions over China's heavily defended Lop Nor nuclear test site. Unfortunately, the first missions ended in failure. One drone crashed into the Soviet Union, the second and third crashed into the sea, and the fourth crashed in China's Yunnan province, where the wreckage was discovered by local authorities. It was after these initial failures that the D-21 was cancelled in 1971 due to the aforementioned poor success rate, but also because of the fact that satellite reconnaissance was quickly replacing the need for spy planes and drones. But I do love me a good old concept, and I do love the absurdity of launching a scramjet off the top of an SR-71 Blackbird. But as you can see, my SR-71 Blackbird and my not D-21 drone are pretty much complete. Oh, I messed up the wing angle of the SR-71, I have to just fix that, but other than that, it's done. Let's just crossfade to the launch. Love that engine startup effect. Just the sound and the visuals, although the visuals are a bit choppy in KSP 2s. We'll speed up to about double speed for now. I'll probably modify the playback speed kind of according to how interesting it is. So for most of the Ascent, we'll probably have it playing quite fast. What do you think of my little front landing gear there, by the way? I've stowed them away in that cargo bay. Yeah, you probably already saw me doing that in the build. I don't really know how easily it's going to be able to... You would have been able to tell in the final time lapse. Obviously, I'd not seen the 60 FPS playback version of this video yet because it's not... I'm still making it, right? It doesn't exist yet. Here we are, leaving my space center for good just here. Actually, I tell a lie. We will be returning with the Blackbird. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do the classic trick of doing air launches in KSP2, which is right before you do the air launch itself, you make a quick save, and then do the air launch, fly the spacecraft to space or whatever, and have a great old time. Once all that's done, load the save you made right before the air launch, launch it again, but this time switch back to the aircraft and fly that back to the Kerbal Space Center. So it's another one of those things where it's kind of like a two timelines. One timeline, the launch failed, but the SR-71 could return safely to the launch site. And then in the second timeline, the launch was a success, but then the aircraft just crashed and was destroyed. So neither outcome is a particularly positive one, I admit, but, you know, that's just what we've got to do. But maybe, hopefully, when we get KSP2 multiplayer, like the final version, maybe we would be able to do missions like this, where one person flies the for this specific mission, I mean, one person would fly the SR-71, one person would be standing by at the controls, ready to assume control of the drone upon second stage separation. I don't know if we will be able to have two people controlling two separate crafts, but hey, if we can, that would be pretty nifty. And to clarify that, actually, I meant two people can control two separate crafts that were initially at one point one craft. So would that be possible? I don't know. Maybe like you have one person controls one and one controls the other, and then you dock them together on the runway and then do the air launch. I don't know. At the moment, docking ports are like way too buggy to use them for air launches, but hopefully as the bugs get squished out, they will become a viable option. For now, I'm just deploying all my payloads with decouplers or stack separators. You might be wondering why the drone has an air intake on it, because it uses an aerospike, which doesn't need intake air. That's because when I started building it, I had every intention to try and make it look like the real D-21, but then I quickly just abandoned that plan. I was like, no, I just want it to be like capable, you know? So it's very, very long compared to the real D-21, and it's and also it looks nothing like the D-21. So that's just why there is an intake at the front, though. Here you can see I've paused the game. Unfortunately, the jet engines of the SR-71 pulled fuel from all of the fuel tanks, including the ones on the D-21. So I had to quickly pause the game and transfer fuel across. But look at that! Stage separation! Now we have to head on up to orbit. I don't really like those two front canards there. They are very obtuse and look really ugly, but without them, and I did try initially not having big canards at the front, the craft just would not pitch up at all. So they're a necessary evil, unfortunately. But here we go, well on our way to space. And of course, once we enter low Kerbin orbit, we can deploy all of our reconnaissance equipment, so our cameras, the solar panels, make sure our batteries stay charged, and you know, like a little communications aerial thing, satellite dish. We're going to deploy all of that, have a little look down at the surface, see if we can find a rival space center to go and invade and send in the rover. But yeah, I'll be truthful with you guys. I've done quite a lot of KSP2 commentaries recently, like I've kind of been batch producing videos, so I don't really have that many funny stories or anecdotes to tell since I recorded the last KSP2 video. And also, a lot of my KSP2 videos are quite similar in the sense that it's either to low Kerbin orbit or the Mun, and that's it, because it's just such a hassle going any further than the Mun at this stage. And you probably saw how broken I was after doing the Val subsurface ocean mission, so I thought I'll keep things simple. I've written down a bunch of ideas for like simple missions that shouldn't be too ruined by bugs in KSP2. So if you've got any ideas for things, I'm always open to hearing your suggestions. I've got a fairly massive list actually now, and actually hopefully all of this will become a moot point, because I'm guessing actually for you guys, unless there have been any delays of course, I think for you guys when I publish this video, the first patch will have been released for KSP2. So hopefully things like trajectories past a celestial object, that's priority numero uno for me. Hopefully that's been fixed, and then that just really opens up the whole game, being able to do that. And I guess little things like docking port bugs and that paused, unpaused bug would be nice if they were gone. But really for me, and I think most people, not being able to see a trajectory past a celestial object is a big, that needs to be fixed immediately. Anyway, as you can see, we are here in low Kerbin orbit. Cutting it quite close with the fuel, wasn't I? We've got 61 meters per second of delta V remaining, which is just enough to perform a deorbit burn, so this drone will still be able to fulfill its mission objectives. Yeah, it's always quite satisfying actually, when you design a mission or a craft that just barely has the right amount of fuel, because then it looks like that you actually did calculations and figured out exactly how much fuel you would need, when in reality it's just a bit of coincidence. Well, I guess for me, I did test a shorter version of this drone, didn't have enough fuel to get to space, so I added the 2 black fuel tanks towards the front to see if that would work, and it just about did. Anyway, we must now revert to an earlier point in time.
What we do here is go back.
So here we are, back here once again. This time we're deploying the drone. Oh no, it's failed massively. Never mind, let's just return to the Kerbal Space Center. I will speed the footage up in just a second, because it doesn't fly particularly quickly, the SR-71. And I know this is like the probably the least interesting part of the video, just watch me fly back to the Kerbal Space Center, having already watched me fly out this far. But I don't know, I think it's quite satisfying, like watching fast playback of flights. Is like, yeah, it felt like a long time doing this, but seeing it in time lapse, I don't know, it makes me appreciate the journey. I don't know. Anyway, then this happened. So that weird problem where SAS being enabled sometimes causes the control surfaces of wings to freak out, and in this case they freaked out so much that they shook the plane to pieces. But as you can see, it still sort of flies. Like, we're missing an engine and some of the wings, but we can still sort of fly. So I'm like, let's see if we can try and land this thing in this state. So yeah, fun little challenge this. Let's see if we can get this to touch down. There's the runway looming into view just there. Sort of, you can see it's like drifting sideways every now and then. I had to really fight with WASD to get it to work. Let's just drop the playback speed down to slightly close to real time. Still a little bit faster to improve the frame rate. Here we are touching down. Oh, be a textbook landing. Okay, bit of a hop, skip, and a jump, wasn't it? But yeah, still a textbook. And also, we scraped the nose of the aircraft on the ground. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I mean, this aircraft's probably a write-off, right? It's not going to buff out that. But there we are. Jebediah Kerman and Valentina Kerman have touched down in mostly one piece. There they are, all happy with their achievements. They shouldn't look so happy, right? The drone failed, right? So maybe they don't deserve to live after all. We'll go back to the other timeline now, where, of course, they sadly perished. Wow, that got dark real fast, didn't it? Alright, guys, we are now back in space with the drone. But we are now in multiplayer. I said earlier I got a janky build, so it was like a self-hosted server thing, but, well, let's just see what happens. I'm selecting a space center. Let's, sit in orbit, wait for that space center to emerge on the daylight side of the planet. There we are. And then we can think about doing a deorbit burn in just a second and make our way down there and check things out, see what we can find. So, I'm just looking at kind of when to do my deorbit burn. I kind of made a maneuver node that was roughly the same amount of delta V as what I have in this aircraft. And I thought, right, that looks like a good sort of spot to do the burn. We'll just delete the maneuver plan and just expend all of our remaining fuel to do the retrograde deorbit maneuver. And now that's all done, not much more to do other than just, time warp down and, well, we need to retract the solar panel, I suppose. And I guess we also need to retract that communications dish. Oh, I hate how there's like that big delay. It's not a big delay, especially for you guys where I've sped the footage up to be like 4 times faster than real-time speed, but it's like, it's just annoying enough where it's like really annoying. Like when you right-click apart and there's like a couple of seconds delay. Oh, I'm a very fussy person, as you can tell. Okay, so we're just watching for the Kerbal Space Center now, and I was a bit worried that actually we were going to overshoot it a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, we're over the landmass that the KSC sits on, and we're still coming in quite fast. So I started initiating like some roll maneuvers, trying to create a little bit more drag so we can slow down in time to reach not the runway, right? With this, we're landing at another player's, space center. I don't want to make my entrance too obvious. We're going to aim for like maybe like a little clearing in the trees between some of the launch pads, and we could deploy the rover from there. Hopefully no one will see us. I admit that maybe painting this drone bright red wasn't the smartest of moves. I probably should have painted it maybe all black or dark green, like the same color as the ground would have been a smarter choice. Even like brown or something so it looks like mud. But alas, we did not. Hopefully, I suppose once the drone has landed, all it needs to do is survive long enough to deploy the attack rover, right? It doesn't need to be like particularly stealthy. One thing you might notice, testing this drone was very boring because I have to basically fly it up to altitude every time and then deploy it to see if it works, because that's how you test vessels in KSP2, I guess. And it always took a long time because the performance is so bad, and just generally the flight takes a long time anyway. So the first time I tried launching this thing, obviously it was the version that had the big large wings, which ended up going into a flat spin. So then I tried another version that didn't have those extra black fuel tanks along the fuselage, and that didn't work. And I was like, right, I'm just going to add more fuel tanks. I'm also going to add some parachutes at the front of the vehicle as well, so that if I go back down to a Kerbal Space Center and it can't glide, it just stalls, I'll add some extra parachutes so we can just land it like a capsule. So that's why there's some parachutes on this thing that I didn't use. They're just there as a backup because I literally could not be bothered to keep on reiterating it. I just want this to work. So it can't glide, it could just use parachutes. Luckily though, I should have believed in myself. Because it could, it glided, it was all fine. Okay, so we can deploy the communications dish and the solar panel, and then we can deploy the attack rover. I've loaded this with C4, so we can go and disrupt any launches that we might see. There's not a lot of launch activity going on. I don't know if you guys saw, but I was having a little look at the launch pads around, just that's it. I was having a look at the launch pads and the runway, and I didn't see any vehicles out. So I'm guessing whoever's save this is, they're probably maybe in the vehicle assembly building or something like that, or maybe they're just not online right now. We've got the whole place to ourselves, but we can't assume anything. Look at me, just like struggling to get the rover up right. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a little explore, wait for anyone to come online and start launching something, then we can race over there and ruin their day. It doesn't control the best, this rover. I've got that reaction wheel on the top just so that if I do flip over, which I do quite a few times, I can just enable torque on the reaction wheel so I can just flip myself back up and then disable torque again to continue driving. I'm just going to... I'm playing the footage back very fast now. Hopefully it's watchable for you guys. I want to show you guys a really cool Easter egg actually at the Kerbal Space Center that you might not know about. In KSP1 there was a KSC Easter egg that was if you destroyed the R&D building, there was a little toilet in there. In KSP2 there's a little capsule inside one of the pools. Isn't that cool? And it looks like the capsule from KSP1. Well, that could just be a coincidence because at the end of the day that was modelled after the Apollo command module, right? So there would be similarities there. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I then went for another little bit of a drive and I saw one of the launch pads had a vehicle on it. Now I actually had my microphone on live, so I'm going to stop my commentary now and let you listen to live Matt as this was happening, because I was very curious. Oh my god, there's like a space shuttle here.
Welcome to another Kerbal Space
Is anyone here? Anyone hear anything? Wait, I can hear a voice.
Another space shuttle, because of course space shuttles are incredibly
Oh my gosh, I think this is famous YouTuber Carnassa,
really
and it sounds like he's recording a video for this launch. Oh guys, this is
launching
perfect.
It and releasing a special payload that is inside the cargo
I don't think he's noticed that I'm
We'll
here.
find out about that later on, obviously, but for now, I'm going to be keeping that a little bit of a close-kept secret. Hang on a minute.
Oh.
Wait, what is that approaching?
Oh no, I've been seeing.
It couldn't be.
It is I.
Not in this video. What is this thing, Matt? What are you doing with it?
Oh, this is just like a little rover. It's just a little reconnaissance rover. It doesn't have a bomb or anything in it.
A likely story.
Bomb armed.
Are you sure about that? I just heard it say bomb armed. Hang on, Matt. Quick, go! I can't skip the countdown. Why would it let me skip the countdown? Please, just look. Go, no.
You just got unlaunched, baby. That's right. There can only be one KSP YouTuber, and it's not Carnasa.
Anyway, make sure you like and subscribe to Carnasa.
No, there's no unsolicited advertising. Right, I'm logging off multiplayer. I've disconnected from multiplayer. Ah, there we are, back in single player again. I mean, if Carnasa didn't want anyone blowing up his space shuttles whilst he was recording a video, he shouldn't have been on a multiplayer server. This wasn't really multiplayer. I kind of bamboozled you guys, but I hope it was entertaining nonetheless. And yeah, Carnasa's got a channel. There'll be a link in the description if you want to check that out. If you want to check out some more content from this channel, there's some video suggestions for you on screen right now, all made possible thanks to the wonderful names on screen. They're my Patreon and my channel members, supporters who help me to just stay afloat and all that. So if you want to join their ranks, you can follow the links in the description. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.